KWM3S says, I imagine that you've had all your years of experience in jobs but never had a resume. Oh, imagine that you have all your years of experience and jobs but never had a resume, and nobody knows who you are or what you've done. How would you write a resume for this new year, 2026? What do you think it would look like today if no one knew who you were? Number one, it would be one freaking page. It's got to all fit on one page. Otherwise, you are wasting everybody's time. Nobody is that special. One page. Second of all, that would be a fun exercise. Actually, so I will tell you, I do have an open office doc of every job I've ever done. I've managed to keep it, and it's pages and pages and pages long. My resume would be different depending on what kind of job I'd be using a resume to get a job. With all of these skills, that resume would be sculpted for the kind of job I was going for. If I was going for a corporate job, I would probably talk about working at Lucasfilm, right? Big corporation, worked inside of it. If I was going for more design work, freeform design work, I'd probably cover some of the more blue sky stuff that I've done. I mean, this is a tough one at this moment when the job market is so awful. And for those out there looking for work, I'm really, really sorry. And I'm going to move on from that question and talk to clayscience here, who says, I'm a professor who teaches future science teachers. That is great. The semester starts soon. Is there something you would like to say to future science teachers? Yes. My two favorite kinds of teachers through all of my schooling were my science teachers and my art teachers. Yeah, that's true. And my freshman earth science teacher's name was Dan Frere. He taught at Sleepy Hollow High School. He was an amazing teacher. He had a wonderful manner in class. Picture John Leguizamo. Yeah, because Dan Frere was small. Yeah, John Leguizamo would play Dan Frere in the movie. Same kind of energy, same kind of like out there energy, but you know, super rigorous. And he taught us marvelous things like a glacier can be thought of as a river on quaaludes. It's like spectacular science communication. But also, I was a lonely kid, and so after lunch, I wasn't hanging out with anyone in the cafeteria in my freshman year, but his class was next door to the cafeteria, so I'd wander over there, and he'd be sitting there. This is the early 80s, ladies and gentlemen. He'd be sitting there grading papers, chain smoking in the classroom at his desk. It was the early 80s, man. Shit was crazy. And I would just sit there and ask questions like, hey, and so I remember specifically, I would ask about lesson stuff that I was curious about. It was sort of blue sky science stuff. And I remember at one point, you know, I played with candles because I was a kid and every kid plays with candles. And I noticed that please don't try this at home, but I noticed that if you have a lit candle and you flick your finger right through the meat of the flame right there, it makes a little sound. And I was like, what is that? And he like went and got a candle and we lit it and we did it. And he was like, I don't know. And I can't tell you how deeply thrilling it was to me as a kid to have a question that my science teacher didn't know the answer to. I now realize that the answer to almost every question in science is ultimately, we don't know. What's gravity? No idea. What's life? Your guess is as good as mine. But his complete lack of ego and just saying that, and conversationally to me, like a peer, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. It could be this, maybe it could be that, and he's workshopping it off the top of his head. But just to be present for that, the person in authority saying, I don't know. That's one of the most important things you can do as a future science teacher, is to say you don't know and be honest about it. You're learning as much as they are. The other thing that I would say is that, and you could try this out for size. I think that science communication, by and large, is really about figuring out ways to create drama by using scale. I feel like a lot of what science gives us is an insight into the macro processes of the world as well as the micro processes of the world. And it's all about looking at things in different scales. And we're very familiar with the world at this scale. But as soon as you go much bigger or much smaller, we're all mystified because it's really hard to understand those things. But some of the most beautiful science communication in history is about communicating scale at the deepest possible level. And to that end, I would recommend you go read Carl Sagan's amazing essay, Tiny Blue Dot, which is, I believe this is the Voyager spacecraft, years after being launched somewhere on the other side of Jupiter, looks back towards Earth and photographs it, and it is this tiny dust mite in space. But Sagan gives you some thoughts about the scale of what you can see and what it means. And it's one of my favorite bits of SciComm in the entire planet. Yeah, create some drama out of scale. And if you are a science teacher and you're into some weird stuff, the esoteric stuff that you're interested in is going to be the stuff that you're going to teach the best. I really believe that. I keep on coming back to saying point of view instead of creativity. Started this live stream talking about that. And the main reason I do it is because point of view is about being honest with yourself. And I think that we've all had teachers. We've all had teachers that cared what we thought and were in their ego and in their ego of authority. And we've also had teachers that weren't. And when we were with teachers who weren't, it just was a more honest experience. They're transmitting information, we were receiving it. It doesn't have all these weights of I am the Godhead and you must listen to me. I've heard stories from American schools of a teacher getting the value of pi wrong and then punishing a student that corrected them. This is beyond impossible to conceive of as science teaching. Yes, say you don't know. Okay, so I have another teacher question. And let me also just say, I am not a teacher. I've never been trained in teaching. I did teach some model making classes at the Academy of Art a long time ago, but let me also just say, educators, being an educator is really, really, really hard work. And my hat goes off to you. And I don't mean to give a flippant piece of advice to future educators. Let me just give the caveat that I can't do what you do. And it is an amazing thing to learn how to and then teach people. TylerAndersen says, I'm a school teacher by day and a beginner by night. That's a great phrase. They say that they've accumulated necessary tools and unnecessary ones. And when they bring new tools into the garage, they just place it in an open spot. But now they're trying to get more serious and they need to change the layout to better accommodate the space and workflow. And the problem is, this is great, everything's all over the place, but TylerAndersen knows where it all is. And he says, I fear that rearranging things would throw me off worse. Have you ever gotten to this point before, and how do you approach it? Oh, dude, I get to this point every day. Yeah, you are right. Rearranging things could throw you way off. I have had the experience of taking a set of drawers with 5 categories, taking one of those categories and realizing it's got to go into a bigger bin. And I put it in a bigger bin. And then I go where should this live? And I go put it with some other bigger bins. And I come back. And then the next day I come in and I'm where's that bigger bin? And my brain's we have no idea. Because I've wrecked the map without rebuilding the map. And this is a thorny shop problem. And my method of dealing with it is to take time and be super methodical. So I have some airplane When you're on the airplane and they're going up and down with the drink carts, giving you drinks, I keep tools and stuff in several of those carts. I buy them, I've bought them on eBay with their little drawers, and I use them for sorting some stuff. And I had a stack of 6 drawers, and 3 of them were brushes. And I realized I have enough brushes. I have enough different kinds of brushes that I need all 6 of those drawers. So I thought, great, I'm going to convert that entire 6-drawer stack to just brushes. But there's other things in there, like, I don't know, steel wool, rubber bands, stirring sticks. And some of it was going to stay in the same drawer stack. That's fine. If it's staying within the same stack of all the drawers, I can eventually find it. But if I'm moving stuff away, man, you got to go that really carefully. So I looked at that drawer stack for weeks. I kept on thinking, okay, where's those guys going to live? Maybe they could live. And slowly sort of building a plan for myself, but I'm not just building a plan, I'm also building the logic in my head for where this thing lives now. I can't tell you how many times I have lost things just by cleverly putting them somewhere temporarily and not remembering where I put them. So yeah, when you have total knowledge of your space, it's fraught to move the location of a thing, and it must be done carefully and methodically. One of the other ways you could do it is label the new space it's in really clearly for a while until it's burned into your head. It's funny. So I think last year in our first live stream of the year, I made a promise that I was going to do a video about the organizational strategies in my kitchen at home, and I still haven't done that video. The main reason I haven't done that video is because it just feels really intimate to bring you guys into my kitchen and show you the whole organizational strategy. It's very different than here. And it is based on total knowledge. Like my wife and I both understand our kitchen completely because we use all the parts of it all the time. But it's a fundamentally different process than here. And we don't change locations of things lightly at all. And I will go into great detail on it. I will get that video done this year, probably. That's a terrific question. Thank you for watching. I wanted to talk to you about Tested membership. The Tested members are a key community that we find really, really remarkable. That's very separate from Tested and from YouTube. The Tested members, they buy each other memberships during our live streams. So if you're wondering whether to become a member, watch one of our live streams and someone may just give you one. It is hard to overestimate how much the Tested members actually make possible on this channel. They give us a lot of wiggle room. They give us a huge amount of feedback.
That's a member right now.
Thank you so much for enjoying your membership. Description for everything you need to know. And for all the members out there, thank you, thank you, thank you.